Good afternoon. Thank you so much for taking the time out and joining us for this amazing panel, The Revolution of Work, because it's here. My name is Nori Davidson. I'm the CEO of Third Octet, and I'm really pleased that you've all made it out to join us. I have been really thrilled to be part of all of this, to be associated with Third Octet. I love the work that you do. The whole vision of betterment of organizations and having technology as the foundation of work, life, and balance really speaks to my values, and I'm very honored to be here. According to the London School of Economics Global Leadership Summit Survey, in 2020, only 2 years from now, 50 to 75% of the global workforce will be remote, distributed, flexible, and agile. The revolution of work is underway, and there is no turning back. But in this new paradigm of work, is it actually fulfilling its potential? Is it positively impacting your business? Some large companies have introduced remote work and have not been successful. What were their challenges? Well, what about you? Are you challenged with the rising cost of renting or purchasing office space? As you move to more flexible workspaces for your organizations, are you paying for empty desk space? Some organizations are now weighing the pros and cons of actually keeping their organizations in the office space that they currently use. Are you confident that you can attract and retain younger workers? Millennials are demanding work flexibility for work-life balance and professional growth. And according to Forbes, the quit rate among this group is 26% and rising. Think of your own workforce. In 2 years, 35% of them will probably be millennials. And they're not fans of walls and office cubicles. These skilled collaborators expect to be able to work anytime from anywhere. They'll bring their own devices to work, and they expect you to have the infrastructure to support them and the company policies to accommodate those. Is your business model enabled by the appropriate technology? Some of your employees may be driving this revolution. Improved tech tools for working collaboratively, file sharing, online training, liberate employees from the workspace, and it enables them to organize their own schedule. But I bet you are also very concerned about efficiency, productivity, and culture. A work shift survey informs us that over 50% of people report that they're more productive outside of the 9-to-5 workday. So think about that. What can you do as a leader to capture that creative and productive output? What does it take to make an agile workforce model for your organization?
The Citrix Vision, I think we talked a lot about that. We talked about millennials coming in, there's an expectation of people want to work remotely. There's you know, the choices people need and want, the different devices and everything. You know, from the technology standpoint, there's a lot of complexity out there. You know, how do you connect, you know, one person from their home via an untrusted internet and getting into your corporate data? You know, at Citrix, what we do and what we've done in the past, you know, 20 some odd years, almost 30 years, is that we power the future of work. We power a better way for you to achieve work-life balance while maximizing productivity. Like, I want to highlight the opportunity for you to join a team that's helping to create a world where people can experience work and life their way. So it's
That's
not
exciting.
just, it's not what we do, we live it. That's our mantra.
Really exciting. And you know, when I spoke with you, when we were getting ready for this, what really excited me was when you talked about companies that are scaling up, you know, and how, you know, how you were able to make that easier for them, you know? So I think that's part of the overall vision, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think technology will play a core part in the mobile work style. I think it should be an enabler. I think it can do a whole lot. You know, expand into different markets.
Yeah.
You know, how you can onboard a new employee, open up new office, you know, quicker. Time to value is quicker.
Yes.
So I think there's a lot of value from the technology standpoint.
I would say being able to work when and where you're most effective, and being able to work in the locations that you want to work, and not being saddled in a metal box every day driving an hour or more each way to work, which I think is hopefully not the way of the future. I think we spend way too much time commuting.
Jobs are disappearing. You know, you no longer go to the job now can come to you. But we're creating a generation right now that we better begin to understand. We have some in the area of 35% of our college graduates not going into industry, but going into ARB and rental properties with their computers. And they're building a thing called the world of the application. You still have to run a business. There has to be an exchange of value, unless we decide that we're going to build a whole socialistic new world, but that, unfortunately, that's not North America.
We at Unilever believe that, you know, the future of work is working when, where, and how makes you most productive. But I would say there's a lot of things going on, and it's not unique to our industry. I mean, we're in the manufacturing industry, right? And we're seeing robotics, we're seeing AI, we've got gig economy. And with all of this change, and the pace of change is never going to be this slow, comes anxiety, right? And so now we have this anxiety epidemic that's coming about too, right? Because are we now creating resilient employees? Because there's so much change happening, and so how do we make sure that our employees are equipped with that? You know, and maybe it's where we no longer have to have well-being programs, or we need to have events like this where we're talking about well-being and why this really matters, because it truly is embedded into the culture, right? And so it no longer is something that we need to talk about. We're just simply doing it, and we're doing the right things in creating this culture where people can bring their best authentic self to work every day.
So it's interesting because now I want to be like a Bob and say, I think the well-being is going to be even more important, because if you look at what's happening with university kids right now, the levels of suicide is extremely high. And the universities are trying to turn on a dime to accommodate and provide the support system. So we have to be thinking about things like that as we look to, look to the future. How would you describe the disruptive revolution that's actually happening with those leaders that you're working with?
You're saying, is technology going to take away jobs? No. We have more jobs today that are vacant than I've ever seen in the last 10 years.
Yes.
What
Yes.
we don't have is people who were trained in the skills that we should have started 10 years ago.
Good point, and Gail has something to say.
I would agree with that, Robert, and I'm not sure that you and I would agree on everything, but certainly around the skill-based professions, I believe that automation is taking away jobs, say certain types of jobs that we would think in the manufacturing industry. But there is absolutely a gap between skill-based work and skill-based workers, and companies will suffer if we don't do something to educate even families.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants their son to be the plumber. They want them to go to university. They want them, so you know what, I agree with you. There is absolutely a skill-based gap.
And in order to move forward, we have to innovate. So Ching, over to you. How has technology helped organizations to innovate?
Okay, first and foremost, Bob, you got to come with me. I'm doing a new bathroom at our house. Can't find a good plumber. No. You know, I think first and foremost, you know, when you look at technology and when you look at the role of IT in technology, IT has always been treated as a cost center to a lot of big organizations. So it's always costing this. I think, you know, IT needs to step up to the big boys table.
Yes.
To the C-suite, to the executives, right? Make those decisions together as business partners.
Yes.
Until they are able to do that, to get that seat on the big boy table, it's going to be an uphill battle. But when you get there and you're able to sell that vision to the organization, to the rest of the board and executives, I think that can open up many, many doors. I think we talked about, you know, expansion to new markets, right? We can, you know, for us, specifically at Citrix, we just moved recently in Canada from a 25,000 square foot facility because no one was using it. Everyone was working remotely. We consolidate that. Now we're in a 7,000 square foot facility, right? So we're saving money that way. So technology can enable that. You know, attract and retain talent. People coming into work these days, there's an expectations to have choice of device that they want to use, where they want to work. You know, they don't want to work 9 to 5. They want to work, you know, 7 till 10, but not in a row.
Yeah.
Right. But as long as they get their job done, that's the important thing. I think when you have the infrastructure, the technology, you know, you can achieve all that. And then the byproduct of that is obviously the happy employee, the productive employee, the trusted employee.
Yeah. So Laura, why do managers or leaders often shy away from introducing these agile workforces?
Oh, so definitely it's fear of how will I know they're working if I can't see them, fear of the work not getting done effectively, fear of losing control. But there's a fundamental problem with that fear in that the correlation between someone's butt in a seat and productivity is not necessarily a strong correlation. And we always ask our clients, okay, if that's your fear of how do I know my people are working, we say, how do you know they're working when they're in the office? Are you going over their shoulder and looking at them every minute? How do you know they're working? And then there's a pause. And usually they don't have clear metrics for performance. They don't have clear goals and objectives or KPIs. So it makes us step back in time and realize that we have a bigger problem here in terms of performance management and goal setting. And I think this whole flexible, agile, and distributed work, it unveils a greater problem in how we manage and lead people in organizations.
The way we do business changes. We no longer go shopping necessarily to brick and mortar stores. We have to look at the whole way that we do work, and we need to evolve and shift, right? Because everything, we've got, as I mentioned, robotics, you know, coming into manufacturing sites. We're trying to figure out how do we sell to the online consumer, which looks very different than someone is, you know, goes to the bricks and mortar stores. And so I think step number one is the organization needs to say, we need to do things differently. We need to do things faster, better, right? We as an organization need to be agile and nimble. And so if we as an organization are going to do that, then we need to have agile, nimble employees working within this organization. We also have a very strong culture of well-being globally at Unilever. right? And so this idea of being able to bring your best authentic self to work is very much rooted in our culture, and we have got the support right from leadership globally to support this with a full well-being strategy in place.
In order to impact change, we have to embrace the discomfort. And as leaders, that's our reality. And so how do we create the stage where people can bring their slice of genius in some creative, disruptive way for collective genius to really push things forward? And so I think the agile and flexible workplace is a part of this.
Yes.
It's how we deal and how we get to know these employees, how we know ourselves, how we work with them, how we help them bring their slice of genius to the table is crucial.
Yes. So now we're going to think about the skill sets that are needed in this agile work environment. So Ching, I'll start with you. How has technology changed selection and advancement for an organization?
I think, if the technology is going to be successfully deployed across the enterprise, across the organization, the experience should be a great user experience. It should be simple. It should be consistent right across from no matter where you work, what device you're working from, what connection you're at. That experience, whether you're in the office, it should be the same everywhere else. So if you can deliver that experience out to those users, it doesn't matter who you choose. I mean, technology shouldn't be the deciding factor.
Have you changed how you look for certain skill sets, or are there any particular skill sets that you really value at Citrix?
Well, I think when I look for the people, obviously I'm in a sales capacity, so I'm looking for very specific types of skill set. But I think being able to work remotely, because my team is right across Canada. I have 3 people here in the GTA. The rest are spread right across. So I think being a self-starter, being able to work remotely, obviously, and in a collaborative way as well. So those are the things that I look for.
Something that definitely pops into mind is learning to have effective meetings from a distance. So honing in on your distributed meeting management skills, because meetings from a distance take certain skills to facilitate, to organize, to keep people engaged, to plan, to follow up on. And I mean, back to my point earlier, meetings in traditional co-located workplaces suck, basically. And then you take it in a distributed context, and it even gets more challenging. So becoming a really great distributed team leader would be one. Becoming much more planful and organized when it comes to managing a distributed team. So you can't get away with lazy leadership or not planning ahead. You have to be more organized and more planful and intentional. And then one more area would be what we call communication medium match, which is learning to choose the correct communication medium for your purpose.
What I wanted to say is not every job is suited for agile work.
I'm not worried about all this technology. I'm not. You're all going to have jobs if you'll learn how to use technology and not think it is a duplication for something which you're born with.
And would you do anything about hiring practices? Would you change approaches? So what can we do to disrupt hiring practices to make sure we yield the right results?
I think we need to hire differently. The one person that answers the question totally different than everybody else, that's the person you should be looking at.
The leadership, as we understand it, is dead. All right? Period. There is no longer, right? There's no such thing anymore that a leader in today's complexity can lead anybody. The Hopi had a saying many years ago, and it went like this: the leader you're looking for is you. That's what you're waiting for. So leadership needs to be democratized. And one of the reasons that makes Agile so successful is Agile teams is democratized leadership, right? The collaborative teams come up with solutions that the leader can't.
So, I mean, we are a performance-based organization. It's extremely fast-paced. There's an expectation. This is what needs to be delivered. You're an adult. Figure out how to deliver it. And we'll help you. We're going to create the environment. We're going to give you the resources. We're going to give you the tools. Are you at your best the majority of the time? Can you sustain it? Right? And so in a 24/7 world where it's agile and we've got the technology, people tend to overcommit, overwork, and don't take enough time for themselves, because we attract those kind of people in this environment. And from a well-being program, I need to say, take time for you. It's okay to go for your lunch. It's okay to take your vacation, because we tend to be always on. And so that's kind of the paradox that I'm navigating right now.
I think nothing replaces face-to-face, absolutely, but I think you can still develop into a great people person and a people leader without having to be face-to-face every day. I think you need a strong foundation of trust before you can have healthy disagreement or debate or, radical candor or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. And you develop trust also by delivering on what you say you're going to deliver.
I'm all for working from home, working remotely, but I think there is a balance. I value that face time too. I don't think it should be 100% home or 100% at the office. Depends on your role, depends on your company and your job function. Somewhere in between is the right answer.
And your personality.
Yes.
That's true.
That's true. And then you give them the tools and the technologies when they are apart to collaborate and communicate and get things done via the technology, while bringing in the FaceTime when it's needed.
To work remotely, to enable everyone to have flexible work schedule, if you cannot protect your intellectual property, if you cannot protect your customers' database, if you cannot protect your secret sauce, right? That will never work. So we have the technology that enable that. The way, there's a lot of technologies out there, endpoint technologies to protect your devices, this and that, right? We look at technology a little bit differently in the sense that it's an access point. It's the contextual access. So how are you getting into your corporate applications and data? If this employee is working from the office within the company's firewall on a trusted company-issued device, well, he or she should be able to get access to all the application data, right? Providing that role enables them to do that. But if that person is logging in from, their personal laptop at a Starbucks, maybe they can't get access to all the application. Maybe they can't save it to a local drive. Maybe they can't print or copy and paste. So depends on your security policy. We can control very little or just lock it completely down. So somewhere in between is the right mix.
I know you'll leave here with insights, but you may also want to speak with a few people after you leave here. So you can connect with Damon Topley or Nori Davidson from Third Octet, Michael Stelmach or Chin Mac from Citrix, or with any of the panelists or with me, and you can, probe into some of this a little bit further. So the conversation doesn't stop here, it continues.